your main man coming back. I'm going to be doing the often requested review of Ghouls, Fatal Addiction from White Wolf, World of Darkness. Yes, the original World of Darkness, the real World of Darkness, not the phony World of Darkness light. We're not talking about diet role-playing games here. This has all the calories, and the calories are for your mind. And now, this book originally cost $15. There's a actual show the back. I think one or two of the pieces of artwork in here might be recycled from other World of Darkness books. However, overall, it's quite nice. You have a lot in the book. They talk about how ghouls are done for different clans, how being a ghoul itself is a disease, is an addiction, and the withdrawal from the blood, what kind of effects on older ghouls the blood has. Anyone who watches True Blood, you've seen, particularly in the latter seasons, that they get into the ghouls. They get into the healing, the addiction of what they call V, and this, it's called Vitae. Of course, True Blood is really, really, really heavily cribbed off this. They bought all the damn World of Darkness books. I will guarantee you that. They bought those books and they were just taking notes like crazy for those books, for Underworld, for tons of stuff. This was a true revolution in the horror genre, in that supernatural fantasy, modern genre, Gothic America genre, however you want to term it. Really a large basket of similar genres. This inspired tremendously. It was a cultural revolution. Hell, it was a vampire pro wrestler named Gangrel. It was licensed through White Wolf, by the way. That was licensed by WB. And in this book, you have animal ghouls, and it gives you templates and stats for different sort of animals. You can make them ghouls. It has vassals, and I'll show you some of the artwork in there. Actually, here's a piece of artwork. Kind of a little bit of the artwork in here is a little perverse. This again is a darker game. You're dealing with themes of addiction, themes of slavery, themes of debasement and debauchery. This is one of the more mature, more adult-themed games that you can have, that you can play in World of Darkness. And that goes really a long way. It's not a Black Dog game product, but it really wouldn't have surprised me if it had been. The act of taking in blood is really the only thing we can compare it to in a real-world idea is an act of sexual gratification. Not sexual release, though, because it's an act of taking in instead of getting out. It's almost sort of an inversion of a sexual release and this tremendous rush. Perhaps you could compare it to other sort of drugs. I would definitely say that getting blood is probably an upper. The book goes into like mood and theme. It talks about troop style play, playing vampires, and then each of those vampires is a bunch of ghouls, and then you would play as some of these ghouls and so forth. And there's so many different ways you can play this. You could play this as a main game. This book here, along with the vampire book, because you need the core rules in there to come with these. Everything that's on the character sheet is going to be described in your vampire core book. So if you have those two books, just the vampire core book and this book, you could run years and years and years and years of different campaigns. It has, of course, there are always going to be characters in these books. I'm usually not a fan of most of them. Most of them just aren't very good. I didn't reread these. I don't quite care too much about the templates in here. They usually aren't that impressive. They're not terrible usually, but they're not that inspired either. It does give you some ideas for Vitae Hunters and for Revenant Agents. Now, it gets into the three main divisions of ghouls. Now, let me just show you these pictures here. For ghouls, you have the three main divisions are going to be vassals. So a vassal is a slave to a vampire. You are attending perhaps the bourgeois primogen of Chicago. You are his ghoul, his slave, his blood-bound puppet. You love him. Remember, the blood bond is akin to a tremendous love coupled with addiction. And it goes into the blood bond. It goes into the state of slavery, which ghouldom often is. However, it is not always that way for the independent. And that's not necessarily just the unbondable merit, which is a horrible merit. Don't take that. Certainly don't take that in a Ghouls game. No one should take that. It destroys the game. Because what it is that danger of the independent. So you capture yourself a vampire, right? And there's a ghoul I can drink off him, and it's fine. And remember, it only takes three different nights, the same vampire, you're bloodbound. But once you drink off him once, you get closer to being bloodbound. You have the very slightest stirrings of those feelings inside you. Twice, whoo-hoo, you're getting closer and closer. Boy, that blood tastes even better the second time. And the third time, well, unfortunately, you're going to be unlocking that vampire and helping him kill the rest of your ruffian companions that abducted him. I find Independence probably the best play value for this game. However, there are a lot of other good things. We're talking about that in a minute. But for Independence, you can have. I would set the game up sort of like a sleeper cell, like you're running almost like a terrorist sort of game. But the ghouls themselves are grabbing, abducting, stealing vampires right off the streets in vans, bringing them back to basements, dungeons, houses, wherever they're set up outside of prying eyes, keeping the vampire there, drinking them, hitting 3 or 4 vampires in one city, going to the next city, keeping all, you can even play it almost like a serial killer sort of thing, because remember, you're basically going to abduct, pump out the blood, and kill people. You're living sort of a scummy life. You can get involved in drugs, terrorism, all sorts of very negative aspects, very dark, shady things, because you need to survive. You are going out there like a drug fiend and trying to acquire everything you can. You want to watch The Wire, the character Omar from The Wire, who's also Chucky White in Boardwalk Empire, great actor. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he would make for a great base beginning idea for an independent. And then if you look at, Barksdale, for example, or Stringer Bell as a vampire, he's coming for them. And the vampires might know, okay, there's these independent ghouls there, like Caphias Smith in the game. We have to put the brakes on them. We're really terrified of these guys because they can come at us. They can come at us during the day. They can come at us when we're not expecting it. They can just rush up on Elysium and start busting us up. There's so many different things they could do, and they might come with heavy firepower. They might come with different tactics, and particularly in these modern nights where you can really do a lot with different kinds of firearms, flamethrowers, all sorts of ideas. A ghoul can be a true menacing, potent threat to a vampire. Not to mention that the fact they're going to have some disciplines. They could have quite a long list of different disciplines. So there's a lot you can do, and I think that sort of sleeper cell idea could really pop for a game. And this is something I have played Ghouls before. I've had Ghouls in games I've run, but I've never run a specific Ghoul game, and that is definitely one of my list of games that at some point I'll be running. My players, they have been bugging me, oh man, we're going to run some World of Darkness Ghouls, that'd be great. But, it's just, my games, they last a long time, so, it takes a little bit to get into the different games. But I have some really good ideas for that. Now, the next of the 3 we talked about is Revenants. Revenants are very interesting. These are created by the Jimacé. They come from old stock, from real Jimacé, not from this sludge trash of the Sabbat. Now, you have the Bradovich, the Grimaldi, the Obertus, and the Zantasha. I believe there is 1 or 2 more in some other books. But these make great ideas, great base points for creating a Jimacé in the Sabbat. And, you can even go into having, say, for example, when I was playing Rob Pepper, some of you know the Bland Humanoid, he was running a game for myself and Martin over Skype over a year ago at this point, I think. Over a year ago, I would say. So I was playing a Zantasa, and it was, it was just Dana Archer, Zantasha, and right there, boom, I have the last name already done. It ties back. It's got a legacy. It's got a lineage. It means something, and it means something inside the Sabbat that you have to remember. Not only are the Revenants, but the Revenants themselves are very likely to get embraced, elevated up. And not only are you starting off, you're already above the rank and file of humanity as a Revenant. You're already better. So now that you are a vampire, even better still, and there's a lot of vampires, a lot of Jimacé that are going to be from these Revenant houses. So, that being the case, they're going to look fondly upon you, and it's a great sort of political idea, and an immediate portion of your background just built in there, which can be quite helpful. The concept of Revenant is you are essentially born a ghoul. You're from a line of ghoul, bred with ghoul, bred with ghoul, bred with ghoul, and unfortunately, a lot of these houses have become extremely inbred with generations passing. The other interesting aspect is you could have your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather who is, still around. Revenants do eventually age, of course, but they age slower. Their aging is retarded. They are not the short span. I think they live, for 250 years or something like that. I'd have to do a little bit of research here to get the exact numbers, but it's something like that. And it goes into what disciplines. That's right. Each of them have different, essentially, clan disciplines for themselves and weaknesses. So they come with a good bit of stroke, and it can present a very interesting game where you're playing members of, say, one of these houses to build in for the Sabbat, these revenant houses. And I believe also the old clan Genesee employs some as well. So there's plenty of reason that you could use these in a non-Sabbat game. It could be quite interesting. And the concept could very easily be applied to some of the other clans that are heavy ghoul users, like a Tremere clan. I think it works quite fine with my son coming in. Go back that way.
What?
Go back that way. It has some new secondary talents in here, some new merits and flaws are in this book. In fact, I think some of them are changed up a little bit. It makes Unbondable a 6-point merit instead of a 4-point merit. Maybe even Unbondable is I think Unbondable typically is a 4-point. It might be a 3, but I think it's 4. But they up the cost because Unbondable is a super scarily powerful ability. I wouldn't allow it at all. I strongly recommend do not allow a ghoul character to have it. It just really takes the fear out of the game. They have to be completely afraid that they're going to blood bond themselves to a vampire that they're drinking from. Ghouls drink about once every moon. So it gets real scary, and then you're like, okay, well, I could take just 2 drinks, but you're looking at that vampire like, man, I'm really starting to care about you. I'm really starting to think something of you. So, in conclusion, this is to me of the helper books they have. I also like the one from Mage a lot. Some of the books overall, in fact, I think Hidden Focus is pretty good too. I find this to be a very, very good book. I would give this like a 9 out of 10 for a World of Darkness book. I say it's definitely one that you pick up for your collection. I greatly enjoy it and would definitely recommend anyone picking this up. I don't believe it's going to cost you very much either. I think it should be just a little bit more than shipping, maybe shipping plus $2 or $3 to pick a copy up. At least last time I looked, they were a very cheap book. Of course, originally retail for $15. You might be able to find one in your local game store and talk the guy down to maybe even $5 for it. If it's been sitting there for a decade or more, you may be well happy to just have it off the shelf and recoup a little bit of money. So, Ghoul Fatal Addiction, front and back. Excellent book. Strongly recommend you pick it up. Lots you can do with it.